Good morning and welcome to worship with Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. Today we have a special service on voting rights called Vote Love, Defeat Hate. Josh, please share our processional video now. Good morning. I am the Reverend Dr. Suzanne Intriligator. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I welcome you to worship with us this morning at Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. We are a friendly congregation, and newcomers are, of course, welcome here to join us in worship. To learn more about us, please visit the welcome page on our website, melroseuu.org, and click on the link there to sign our digital guest book. And N will post that link in our chat box now, so you can have it. Feel free to use the chat to say hello and to greet one another, tell us where you're from, and please feel welcome to stay afterward for our virtual coffee hour. I'd also like to say a special word of welcome this morning to Josh Miller, who is our new worship technician. He is hosting our Zoom worship on Sundays from now on. Josh is a recent college graduate with a major in film and lots of experience working at our local cable station, MMTV. Josh, would you like to say a quick hello to everyone now?
Hi, how is everyone? Pleasure to be working with all you, and I hope that I do a good job for the future.
Thank you, Josh. I know you will. And folks, if you've joined us before, you know that UUs don't have any creed or faith statement that we all share about God or Jesus. Instead, we gather to explore religious perspectives and to encourage every individual to undertake their own free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Our 7 ethical principles guide these journeys of faith, and today we are focusing on the 5th principle, the 5th of those principles, and that calls us to affirm and promote, quote, the right of conscience and the use of democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. That means that we as a faith body, we believe that the democratic process is the best known form of decision-making for groups large and small and for our nation as a whole. Therefore, we work to support and uphold voting rights in every election. Many of us here at MUUC have been hard at work for weeks or for months already to prepare for the coming election. We've been reaching out by phone or mail to voters across the country, helping them register to vote or learn about early voting or request mail-in ballots. In fact, our closing hymn today contains a photo tribute to some of our congregation's own hardworking election activists. Feel free to reach out to those people directly for more info on the campaigns they're supporting. And thank you all for your good work that you're doing. Before then, however, in the worship service today, we'll be hearing about and from our denomination's national nonpartisan campaign called UU the Vote. UU the Vote has set a goal of reaching 1 million voters before November. 1 million. And you know what? They're almost there. We are almost there. By November, with a little help from, I hope, you and me, UU the Vote will have talked with 1 million voters, mostly people of color in swing states, encouraging them to vote and to vote according to their values. That 1 million could make all the difference in November. And so, UU the Vote has asked churches across the country to participate together in a joint worship service in order to celebrate, consecrate, and inspire all our election activism today and throughout the next month. That worship service is what you will see here today as we watch together several messages from UU the Vote, including a homily this morning from our UUA president, the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray. This work is so important, as I know you realize the outcome will have repercussions for generations to come. To boost us along the way today, we also have a fun art project for you, so you can doodle today as part of worship. I encourage you to do that. In the newsletter and on the home page of the website, you'll see an item called, "Can you spell VOTE?" In that item, there's a link to a PDF of the letters VOT and E. Here's a little example for you. So you can print these out at home on your home printer and then color them in and drop them off here at church on the side porch. Then later this week, we'll be hanging these letters up in our sanctuary windows after they're all colored in by people at home. And then together, we'll be asking all of Melrose to please do their duty and vote this coming November. I'll be checking in with you near the end of the service to see how your coloring is coming along. Two more links I want to tell you about before we get started this morning. Both of them are also in the newsletter and on the homepage of the Melrose website, which again is melroseuu.org. One is the link to join in a rally this afternoon. It's an online rally on Zoom to support police reform legislation that's currently pending in our Massachusetts State House. Black leaders across the state are asking for our support there. I hope you'll join me. I'll be there at 2 today. Second, you'll also see a link to sign up for the next UU the Vote event happening September 30th. That will be a Zoom call, kind of like this one, where together we will make 10,000 phone calls to Wisconsin voters. Sign up. We'll walk you through every single step of the way and give it a go. What do you have to lose? And now is the time that we take every Sunday to greet our neighbors, greet everyone here today. Click on gallery view so you can see all the little windows and scroll through them now. Give everybody a wave and a virtual hug and a big smile, and just enjoy seeing all the faces that are with us this morning. Oh, wow, so many. Hi, everybody. Looking good. I see a lot of smiles. Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. Thank you and welcome. We who believe in freedom cannot rest, said the voting rights activist Ella Baker in the 1960s. Baker trained a whole generation of young people to sit in for justice as part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, known as SNCC. Years later, Baker's words were set to music by Bernice Johnson Reagan of the group Sweet Honey in the Rock. And that song, called Ella's Song, has continued to inspire activists for decades ever since. So I call us to worship this morning with these words from Ella's song. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of Black men, Black mothers' sons, is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. Not needing to clutch for power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be one in the number as we stand against tyranny. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. And now, along with UUs everywhere, I will light the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice, while Mary Hildebrand, who serves this year as the secretary of our Board of Trustees, will give the chalice lighting reading this morning. Mary, go ahead.
Reminder of the Inner Light by Gregory David Miller. This fire is a reminder of the light within us all, the yearning for freedom, the longing for truth, the flame of intuition, the torch of conscience. We dedicate this service to the remembrance of this holy light.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you for your work on our board this coming year. Now, please let us join together in our covenant, which we say every week. We'll share that slide with you now. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God. Story time. Please, folks of all ages, while you are coloring, gather around your device for our story time this morning.
Hey, you friends. I'm going to sing my song Be a Pain that I wrote. And Be a Pain was based in part on the wisdom, the words of the late, great John Lewis. For some of our younger friends in the congregation, John Lewis was a great civil rights leader, and he became a U.S. congressperson from Atlanta, Georgia, and he died just this past summer, and we miss him. But John Lewis said, cause good trouble. He always talked about causing good trouble, not bad trouble, causing good trouble. That's what Be a Pain is about, too. In my song, Be a Pain, I talk about 4 different groups of people. Or people. You guys will recognize some of them, kids in our group. You may not recognize all of them. So the first person I mentioned here is Rosa Parks. You know her, right? And in 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up that seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, and it helped start the civil rights movement, a movement that we're still fighting today, right? She was a pain. She caused some good trouble. Next to her here is a man named Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was one of our country's great LGBTQ leaders, a gay man who stood up for the rights of his people, his family, and who sacrificed, just like our civil rights leaders, to fight for something that would make our country better. He was a pain. Down here we have Serena Williams. If you're a tennis fan, you know Serena, maybe the greatest tennis player of all time. And next to her is a hero named Billie Jean King. Billie Jean King was also an athlete, a female tennis player, and she and some other women stood up and they fought for the rights of women to get equal pay in their sport, but that became part of a bigger movement where women fought to have equal rights in the workplace and in other places, equal rights to men. And finally, we have some kids here from Parkland, Florida, who stood up for something that they believed in, which is that we need more gun control in our country. Our country is shaped by leaders. We lost another one this past week, Judge Ginsburg, another leader who stood up for our country. And if we want great leaders, we need to first be one ourselves, and then we also need to use our vote to help elect people who will help move our country in the right direction and not the wrong direction. Be a pain. If you see something that's wrong, raise your hand and say that's wrong. Point it out and name that thing by its name. Don't stand by and stare. If it's wrong, it's your affair. Don't be quiet, make a riot, be a pain. Be a pain, be a pain. Shout about it and complain. Ignore the crowd and go against the grain. Don't be polite, raise your voice, do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. When Rosa Parks sat on that bus, she chose to make a fuss. She chose to break the rules and take the blame. Her choice to sit and fight helped to bring on civil rights, because one strong woman chose to be a pain. Be a pain, be a pain. Shout about it and complain. When they say you have to move, say I'll remain. Don't be polite, raise your voice, do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Harvey Milk, he chose to run for the council board and won, even though folks said you can't because you're gay. One brave LGBTQ elected leader ran and knew you can change things if you choose to be a pain. Be a pain, be a pain. Shout about it and complain. Tell 'em I won't let you make me feel ashamed. Don't be polite, raise your voice, do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. A tennis star named Billie Jean told the world she had a dream that men and women would be paid the same. She refused to hit that ball till there was equal pay for all. She was a king because she was a royal pain. Be a pain, be a pain. Shout about it and complain. When they say if they refuse to pay, refuse to play the game. That's it. Don't be polite, raise your voice, do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. One more thing. Kids from Parkland led the fight for something they all knew was right. They said it's time for us to finally make a change. If adults can't compromise, we must go march for our lives. They spoke out and led the charge. They all were pains. Be a pain, be a pain. Shout about it and complain. When you're faced with laws you know are just insane. Don't be polite, raise your voice, do what's right. Be a pain, be a pain, be a pain. Be a pain, go vote. Be a pain.
Thank you, Alistair. Thank you. I love that. Time to breathe. Every Sunday in our worship, we take time for quiet reflection, a time for each of us to connect with our breathing, with our bodies, with the still small voice within that we call conscience. As we enter into this time of centering today, please take your hands from your keyboards, place them gently in your lap or wherever is most comfortable, and settle into your chair. Breathe. Together now, we'll share in our centering song, and then we'll have a few moments of shared silence together. Josh, please share the centering song, sung by many different voices from our choir.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind.
Every week we share with one another the milestones of our lives, our joys and sorrows, the ones that mark our days, so that we might know one another and support one another better. Please, if you would, share all the sorrows first, so that we might give them the space that they deserve and a separate prayer. I will ask for the joys second, so we can celebrate them all together. Please, if you have a sorrow now to share with us today, please type it into the chat box, starting with the word candle, and I will read them all aloud. Seems that we have no sorrows to share this morning. Oh, here we go. From Florence, a candle of love and continued support for our friend Scott, who continues to beat the odds with pancreatic cancer. From Vivian, a candle for my husband's father, Bill. From Catherine C., a candle from Mary Ellen. candle of sorrow, but also gratitude for the life of my mother who died last month. From the Lambiaso family, candle, sorrow and support for the Wickwire family at the sudden passing of the mother, wife, and friend. Please keep them in your hearts. I want to light a candle myself for sorrow this week for the passing of Elandria Williams, who was one of the national leaders of the UUA. She was the moderator of the last GA and one of the most senior lay leaders in our denomination. She was just 41. Very sad at her passing. From Chuck, candle of sorrow for my sister Katie and brother-in-law Robert, who had to make the painful decision to put down their two beloved horses this week. And for Roberta's dear mother Barbara, as she nears her journey's end. From Mary D, a candle of concern. My niece Elizabeth was diagnosed with COVID. After a few days, she was sent home to heal. From Dave and Jeannie, concern from David. Prayer for brother-in-law and sister in California as they continue to deal with his colon cancer. From Dan G, a candle of remembrance for my father who died 1 year ago. In our hearts, we share all the sorrows shared this morning. In our hearts, we hold close all the sorrows that were shared this morning and all the people they impact. We pledge to help however we can, to demonstrate our concern in action, and to send prayers and wishes for healing and strength. Our circle of concern and love upholds and embraces all the sorrows, both spoken and unspoken. I'll now light one candle as a beacon of our care and support. And now I ask for all the joys that you'd like to share. Type them into the chat box, starting with candle, and I'll read them aloud. From Gretchen, candle of joy for a family hike in New Hampshire yesterday with our son Cameron and his girlfriend. They live in Maine, and we hadn't seen them in person for 6 months. My thighs are screaming, but my heart is full, says Gretchen. From Dave and Jeannie, candle of joy. From Jeannie for her mother, Regina A. Harris, who would have turned 100 this Tuesday, a celebration of her life. Any other joys to share this morning? From Olivia, candle of joy for my newborn daughter, Joni. At 9 weeks old, this is her first church service. Welcome, baby. From Don Sparks, we received an unexpected gift of financial benefit, which we are grateful for. From Donna, candle of joy to welcome my sister Shirley back to New England. She moved back last week. Welcome, Cheryl. Any other joys today? By speaking these joys, you invite us to share in your happiness and good fortune. Your joy lifts us all, and hope points us forward. I now light one more candle to shine out our joy for all the blessings shared here this morning. And now I invite you into a time of prayer, which will be led this morning by the Reverend Michael Slack of UU the Vote and of Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. Josh, please share the video of Reverend Slack.
May I be light in you. May you be light in me. Into our hearts, into our souls, let love abide. May I be love in you. May you be love in me. From this place out to the world for all time. Spirit of life, sources of all that ever was and can be, we are guided by all that is sacred within our own hearts and minds to pray this prayer and to live this prayer. We offer up this simple and profound hope that we may be light, give light, and receive light in all the places we call home and in this sacred space that reaches across miles and experiences. That we may be love, give love, and receive love out in the world. May we never forget the impact and power of our voices. May we never lose sight of the songs in our hearts. D. Blanchard reminds us that they can be heard as songs of love or of longing, songs of encouragement or of comfort, songs of struggle or of security and care. But most of all, they are the songs of life, giving testimony to what has been, giving praise for all we're given, giving hope for all we strive for, and giving voice to the great mystery that carries each of us in and out of this world. Today, we hear those songs in all the ways we are learning and growing as communities of faith, hope, and love. We hear them as little ones become young ones. We hear them as loved ones pass from this life and into the unknown. And we hear them in the streets and at our polling places as people of faith and conscience pave the way for a better world, a better understanding, deeper care and accountability. And we hear them in the silences, a deep awareness that there are those among us as yet unheard and unaccounted for. May we never, ever forget the impact and the power of our voices. May we never, ever lose sight of the songs in our hearts. May grace and mercy follow us wherever we may go, whatever we feel called to and toward in the days and weeks ahead. Amen. Ashe. And blessed be.
Thank you, Reverend Slack. And now for our offertory music. This morning we have a special selection prepared by UU the Vote's National Virtual Choir. If you find it uplifting, or if you are moved by any part of this morning's service, I invite you to donate now. You can go to our homepage at melroseuu.org and click on the donate button in the top right corner. Half of our collection today will go to UU the Vote. And now please share our offertory music, We Shall Be Known.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these vibes. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we cry. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these vibes. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.
For our reading this morning, I want to share with you this 5-minute video from a UU the Vote field organizer who will tell you a little bit about what they are up to and how you can join in.
I got trained as a community organizer with Californians for Justice. And there we believed that people of color, immigrants, poor folks, queer folks, disabled folks, and young people are the majority. And if we organized our communities to vote, we could shift power to reflect our values and interests and needs for racial justice and economic justice and more. And now, as a field organizer with UU the Vote in Pennsylvania, I still believe this strategy, that voting can be a means to a power shift. It's not the only strategy, but it is one worthwhile strategy among many. So welcome to my field. Here with my reading glasses and my large screen, instead of my sunglasses and walking shoes for door knocking, the organizing field of pandemic times, where we gather in Zoom rooms large and small to reach thousands upon thousands of voters and potential voters. Just before recording this, 20 of us from Pennsylvania, Maryland, Washington, D.C., my own Connecticut, and Massachusetts gathered in a Zoom room with our partners at CASA, a group organizing to build power in immigrant and working class communities in central Pennsylvania. In 2 hours, we sent over 60,000 texts to urge folks to check and update their voter registration or to get registered. We texted with people who had lost their jobs and apartments due to the pandemic, and we connected them with community resources. We texted with someone who is homeless and helped them get the information they need to be able to register to vote. We texted with lots of folks who weren't sure if their registration was up to date and helped them check their status. We know that over 90 of them followed up to register. And we texted with some people who said they follow God's law and their faith tells them not to participate in voting. Dear ones, our faith says that the here and now matters. That we live our faith not for the possibility of heaven when we die, but to create heaven here on earth. What we do, what you do, matters. And so we work. We you the vote. We text the vote, we postcard the vote, we phone bank the vote. We use the tools at hand, spiritual, technological, relational, to connect with people around our values. If you haven't considered calling voters yet, please step out of your comfort zone and try it. Join us in this sacred connection and faithful work. There is so much to do and so little time before the election. And there is so much to do after the election, because we are in this not to elect a particular person, but to shift power to reflect our faith, our values, so that we can keep organizing for a world where every person is loved, sheltered, valued, and has what they need to thrive. A single honeybee makes just 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in its lifetime. It takes 70 honeybees just to make my morning tea. Like honeybees, it is up to each of us to do our part. Let us be honeybees. I ask you to do your 1/12 of a teaspoon. Perhaps 2 hours or 10 hours of work. Together it adds up to a whole lot of honey. I invite you to come join us in the virtual field. Make your small bit of honey so that together we as Unitarian Universalists can make gallons and gallons of impact.
And now, before we view the homily together, which is a brief version of a sermon, I want to check in with you about our Vote Art project. Does anyone out there have some colored letters they want to show us? I'm thinking there might be some from Ethan and Heather. Just a quick reminder that if you didn't hear about this, oh, look at that! Haha, we're coloring in the letters V, O, T, and E, and we're going to be putting them up in our windows here in the sanctuary. Good job, Weinbergs. Look at that. All right, I hope more people will follow suit. Thank you so much. Good job. Keep coloring. For our homily this morning, we will hear from the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, the president of our denomination. Please share the homily video now.
I was 13 years old when I became a Unitarian Universalist. I was raised in this faith, but I was 13 when I claimed it as my own. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I was waiting for my parents to finish their committee meetings after service. All the other kids had left, and I was bored. I wandered into the visitor's corner, and a little red wallet card caught my eye. It said in bold letters on the front, "What do Unitarian Universalists believe?" My 13-year-old self wondered, what do Unitarian Universalists believe? As I read the 10 statements written by the Reverend David O. Rankin, in my heart, in my soul, as I read those words, I said, yes, this is what I believe. One phrase in particular planted itself in me like the deepest truth, and I never forgot it. We believe in the motive force of love. It was in that moment when I knew that this was my religion. I start with this story to ground the work of UU the Vote in our theology, which is its foundation and its inspiration. This year marks the 250th anniversary of what we celebrate as the beginning of universalism in the United States. It was on September 30th, 1770, that Universalist John Murray preached his first sermon on this continent. And the truth that I read in that little red wallet card, the truth I've never forgotten, is the message of universalism. 250 years ago, in the context of religious notions of God rooted in punishment, damnation, and the division of humanity between worthy and unworthy, saved and damned, the idea of universal salvation, that God's love is unconditional, that no one is cast out, and that salvation is not individual but collective, was radical and liberating. Universalism proclaimed that humanity was bound together in a common destiny, and that love is the thread that binds each of us to the other and everyone to creation. Universalists believe that God is love. They also believed in hell. They just believed that it existed here and now on the earth. The great Universalist preacher Hosea Ballou was clear about how politicians and those in power used fear, stoked fear, to protect their greed and corruption and self-interest, and he knew the suffering that resulted from that. Rather than speak of theology in terms of speculative notions of God, Ballou spoke of it in terms of human experience here and now and our relationships to each other. A society that lives out the motive force of love would be one that fosters joy and liberation and thriving for all people. This is the highest calling of our faith as Unitarian Universalists, to live out, defend, and embrace this motive force of love in our lives, in our actions, in our commitments, and in our society. This is why UU the Vote says vote love. Today, in our context, we are witnessing the emboldening and authorization of ideologies rooted not in love and interdependence, but in domination, authoritarianism, and dehumanization. And just to be clear, this is not new. It has a long and deadly history on this continent, going back more than 400 years. And yes, even our Universalist ancestors came from that same lineage of Christian European conquest and limited the vision of universalism only to white society, a limit that we are still trying to redeem ourselves from. It is dehumanization that creates systems that put children in cages, that deny health care to our transgender siblings, that allow police violence and the murder of Black people to continue unabated and without accountability. Dehumanization that allows triage protocols that devalue the lives of disabled people and that lead to systemic divestment from communities, the resources from housing to education, healthcare to jobs, and the criminalization of poverty. Just as Hosea Ballou named it, the tool of dehumanization, its propaganda, is fear. Propaganda that tells us to fear our neighbor, that we are not family and kin, but enemies. This is the exact opposite of our theology of universalism that tells us that we have a common destiny and we are connected to one another in love. This is why UU the Vote says vote, love, defeat, hate. And while the forces of dehumanization and domination have always been a part of US history, so too have been those who have resisted and organized for the values of dignity, equity, humanity, and love. These days are heartbreaking, they're infuriating, and they're frightening. On days when I lose my own strength, I turn to the words of Alice Walker, who reminds us, we remember our ancestors because it is an easy thing to forget, that we are not the first to suffer, rebel, fight, love, and die. The grace with which we embrace life in spite of the pain and the sorrow is always a measure of what has gone before us. We remember our ancestors, theological, familial, and in movement. We remember Francis, Ellen Watkins Harper, Hosea Ballou, John Brown, Sitting Bull, Ida B. Wells, Dr. King, Anne Braden, and so many more whose names history does not remember. Those who struggled and risked and fought and loved for the principles of justice, equity, liberty. This is why in UU the Vote, we say vote love, we say defeat hate, because dear ones, we are on a precipice. Every single one of our most deeply held values is on the line right now. The current powers in government are showing in everything they do that the inherent worth and dignity of so many immigrants, Black people, disabled folks, trans and queer people does not matter to them. Human agency, interdependence, the democratic process are being disrupted and defiled daily. It is a radical act of faith to not only continue to believe in all of our cherished principles, but to demand them by speaking out, taking risks, organizing, leveraging our resources, and building networks of solidarity and power to protect one another and these values. We are on a precipice, and our actions right now will affect whether we have a chance to continue to bring our bold values forward, to rebuild, expand, and strengthen our democracy, to confront police violence, to upend racial inequity, to change divestment from communities, and make moves to protect the climate. Now is the time to draw on the grace, the courage, and the strength of all those who went before, to widen our comfort zones, and to do all we can to vote, love, and defeat hate. If you haven't taken any form of action yet, sign up for a shift with UU the Vote. I can tell you that it's fun. And if you've written postcards to voters, but you feel nervous about phone banking, do it with your fellow UUs. And if you've been all in with UU the Vote from the beginning, keep it up and start planning for how you will show up and organize after November 3rd. Because democracy will not be restored in one election. It's been under systemic attack for decades, and justice will not roll down like waters in one election. Voting matters. It's absolutely critical, but it is not the end. It is just one piece of the long haul work of organizing for a future where all are free and where all can thrive. Will you show up in the streets, set up to contribute to a bail or legal assistance fund, open your church building to protesters needing refuge from state repression, tap into your own endowment or discretionary funds to make sure that grassroots organizers have the funds they need for their work? There is so much to do. And our faith calls us to love more radically, to give more generously, to believe more fervently that another world is possible, and be willing to be all in for that future. As you've heard me say many times before, This is no time for a casual faith, no time for a casual commitment to what you hold most dear. And this is no time to go it alone. Friends, we are in this work together. I invite you to be deeper in this work of UU the Vote with us. May we remember that we are held by love always. May we remember that we are held by and with one another. And may we all together be all in today, tomorrow, next month, and next year for justice, for love, for democracy, and for a future that is free and thriving for all people. May it be so.
May it be so. Thank you. And now our closing hymn today, which I think is something we all need to hear and we all need to sing as we prepare for our election activism. It's Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Round. And it will feature photos from 20 of our member activists doing their thing, getting ready for the election. And it is sung for us today by many voices from our choir, including Vivian, Jenny, John, Randall, Josh, Cindy, Martha, Karen, and Beth. Now, please, Josh, share our closing hymn. Thank you all for all that good work. And now our benediction. Not needing to clutch to power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be one in the number as we stand against tyranny. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Amen. Our service is ended.